I imagine that you'll watch this video a few times during the semester. If you're watching it at the beginning of the semester, well, first of all, good job. But please don't let it intimidate you. I designed this entire class to help you do a great job in this project. You learn concepts, read about them, discuss them, apply them, and probably get sick of some of them by the time you are ready to turn this project in. If you've watched this before, I won't get offended if you skip to the section where I dig into the rubric. The most common question I'm asked after people look into this course is, can we use this presentation to request funding? Well, the answer is, I would certainly hope so. This is real, it's current, it follows practices that one of the country's top institutions teaches. And they charge a lot for it. Why wouldn't you apply what you learn? You're asked to create a pitch so that you can get funding for your idea. You are free to pick from a list of pre-approved funding sources, including the U of U's Get Seated program or the SBA or Kickstarter, or you may decide to find your own platform. Now, if you do that, find your own, please be sure to run it by me to get it pre-approved. Chances are I'm going to approve it, but you always get that clever student who ruins it for the rest of you. You know, all I requested was $50 to start a website and my dad funded it, so why didn't I get an A, right? If you look closely at the rubric, compare it to the topics in the text, and compare it to the learning objectives listed in the syllabus, you'll notice that it's a true assessment of everything you're going to learn, or that you've learned if you're watching this video towards the end of the semester. This means that the bits and pieces of group work that are assigned to your teams in the modules leading up to the project directly contribute to how well you do in the final. So if you organize your timelines well enough, exercise leadership, and put in the effort throughout the semester, the final will be way more manageable. You will likely remember this project for a very, very long time. I certainly hope that you'll reflect on this project once the semester is over and think of it as one of the more rewarding experiences that you've had during your college experience. And I say this for many reasons. You'll incorporate much of the hard work that you put in during the semester into your pitch, like I mentioned before. But you'll also go through so much hard work with team members who come from different backgrounds, have different sets of skills, strengths, and weaknesses, but you'll learn how to come together and make the most out of what you have to create something larger and more meaningful than you could have done on your own. Let me highlight some of the main points I'd like you to focus on. Typically, I'd ask for progress reports of some sort throughout the semester, but I didn't do this in this class. And mainly it's because successful entrepreneurs need to possess a certain level of discipline and time management skills that other successful professionals may get away without having. That said, you should start this project very early in the semester. Start as soon as your team select the product or service you'd like to work on. Doing this will help you focus your work throughout the semester and distill your findings while they are still fresh in your minds. I want you to remember and remind each other that a good idea that is well executed will always beat a fantastic idea that is not executed well enough. I've outlined some questions in the project's description that you might find helpful. These are questions, or in some cases made-up questions, that you may wonder about as you are working on the project. I listed the answers to the questions and will always welcome additional questions about the project during the class periods. Who knows, good questions may even get featured on that page. That's nice, right? The rubric. Okay, let's talk about the rubric. I would assign a rubric checker on your team. This person will read and reread the rubric every time they go through the assignment or an assignment or a discussion, and let the team know how the outcome of that assignment relates to the final. This is also the same person who will check and recheck your work against the rubric throughout the semester, and most likely delegate additional tasks to individuals in order to challenge them to fully satisfy the requirements of the sections, the different sections in the rubric. If you perfectly satisfy every element in the rubric, will your team get 100%? Yes, Absolutely. So let me go over the rubric with you. First, you're graded on overall structure. You may choose from different structures. If you're presenting, for example, you may say that you want to go through Monroe's motivated sequence or problem solution order or another format. I'm looking for a clear structure that is thought through, well executed, clear, and persuasive. All right, next, you are graded on the funding organization's requirement. This will take some additional research to understand how to present your pitch well and in a way that matches the requirements of the funding organization that you've chosen. Clicking on the names of the organizations in the pre-approved section in this project will take you to pages with helpful information, but I wouldn't stop there. Doing just some quick research on my own, I found plenty of entrepreneur.com, Forbes.com articles that provide many amazing ideas for each of the platforms. Use them. Next, and this is worth more points, is the product or service. Please show up with more than my product is flowers. I want to know what you're doing, how you're sourcing it. Is your method effective and efficient? What are the strengths and weaknesses, not from your perspective, but from the perspective of the target audience you selected, and when compared to relevant competition? An example I like to give here is computers. A computer from the 90s is still a pretty impressive machine that I probably wouldn't be able to invent or build on my own. But even though you might be proud of me or I might be proud of myself for building it, the target audience won't necessarily appreciate it because it's not powerful enough to run anything. I'll probably ask for too much money, given the fact that I'll certainly not be able to scale it. And the strengths and all the pride in the world won't matter when you put it next to a $300 laptop, which would be the least impressive competitor on the market today. So tell me about your product. How are you going to position it? How does it compare? What is your competitive advantage? How hard is it to duplicate that competitive advantage? Meaning, what is your barrier to entry? And what will stop a giant from copying you if you prove the concept to them? Next on the rubric is the target market. This is so significant that steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9 take you through defining and specifying your target market. Many entrepreneurs are convinced that their target market is everyone. And I'm serious. I have been asked if I eat, which naturally means that I'm a restaurant's target market because, as we all know, 1 + 1 = 10,598. My response to the restaurant's owner was simple. Great, how deep are your pockets? Well, what do you mean? Well, I don't want to ignore Swedish babies from our campaign and it'll cost you a lot to get to them. You know what I mean. I mean everyone in Salt Lake City, and you can probably predict where this conversation went. Remember that in PR, you do need to list and consider all the stakeholders, everyone that can be impacted. Your key public by your decision needs to be considered. Marketing doesn't work that way. We look for the market that is most likely going to contribute to the majority of our sales. A random vegetarian may come into your steakhouse to please their partner, please their kids, but I am not going to include them in my advertising. Tell me everything about your target through the steps in the textbook, but don't stop there. Check your entire presentation to ensure that you're focused on that target market when you describe the strengths and weaknesses of the product in the previous step, or when you describe the value in the next step. Remain consistent and focused. Okay, next step is value. Moving on to the value proposition, please be sure to make it clear, quantify it. I don't want to guess if the value is relevant to the target. Convince me. Show me your research. Make it a no-brainer. What problem are you solving? If your target were to consider buying your product or service, what could get in the way and how will you overcome it? How is this a no-brainer? Same goes with pricing, which is next on the rubric. Does your pricing align with the positioning, and is it fit for your target? How will it help you succeed? How does it compare to your competitors? Think about the image of your product. Let's say you're Rolex. What would happen if you price a Rolex line for $50? Sales go up? Well, sure. Would you ever be able to sell a Rolex for $10,000 after that? How will Rolex owners feel? Will you be able to keep your clientele? This, of course, is not the only consideration I want you to think of when thinking about price, but it's an example. Pricing each product or service is very different, so you do have some flexibility, but I do want you to demonstrate that you chose your pricing after thinking about how it will match up with your audience and how it compares to your competitors. Next, you're graded on how clear your business model is presented and thought through. Are you aware of threats and opportunities in the market? Are you experts in the industry? And you should be by now. Remember that you're asking for money and that investors won't give you money unless they trust that you have done your research well and you're positioning your product or service to succeed. Tell them how you will succeed and why you are confident that you will. How do you plan to get new customers? How much will it cost to get a customer? And how does that factor into your long-term profitability? What are the stages and the milestones that you are anticipating and planning for? And of course, are you just telling me what I want to hear, or are you backing up your claims with some thorough research? The steps are clear and outlined, and you've done them, you've gone through them. State them, organize them in a way that appeals to the funding organization. Let them know that your research goes much, much deeper than what you're presenting. Give them the confidence they need. Okay, the next rubric item is the incorporation of the additional elements from the 24-step model. The truth is, every one of the steps is significant and can be incorporated in one way or another. There are time requirements or best practices, and I understand that. So some steps might be more significant than others for certain products. Ultimately, you do have the freedom to choose materials from the steps that are not explicitly covered in the rubric to fortify your presentation and make it whole. Know your numbers. Know the path to success. Fit them into your story and get the deal. Make sure that you're not presenting them in an awkward way that feels like you're just stating numbers to show that you know them. You're not there to brag. You are there to inspire confidence. Incorporate the elements that will fit into your story to make it better. For example, if you've chosen an emotional pitch, which many of you might, you may choose elements from the steps to help you back up the emotional appeal with rational bits, research, stats. Presentation, which is next, is a very, very important element. I understand that some good presenters may feel like it's unfair for them to get docked if their teammates blow the presentation. Ultimately, I understand where you're coming from, but you're a team. If you're playing basketball and the center can't make free throws, although it's not fair, you didn't choose that center, you will do everything in your power to coach them through and help them get better because you want to win. If funders sense a lack of chemistry or a weakness in the team, it could be the reason they back out of the entire deal. Teams fall apart all the time, and no one wants to be a part of that. It's your job to work with your team, to prove to those you're pitching to that you're as solid as can be. Show it through your presentation. Good slides, good videos, good vibes, harmony, passing over from one speaker to another, smiling, even laughing. Show them your personalities, show them your charisma, and make them want to be a part of your team. Finally, the last item on the rubric is the submission. Professional design, clear of typos, and clear of grammar issues is the expectation here. I know it may seem excessive, but the truth is many funders are looking for a reason to back out if they are not 100% in, on the fence. None of us are perfect, sure, I understand that, but a typo is interpreted as lack of attention to detail. You have enough eyeballs and time to go through this project multiple times throughout the semester, and you do have the education and ability to catch everything. You also have access to the Writing Center, friends, colleagues, and so on that are happy to help you get there. Make it clean, professional, and easy to read. Pretty is a nice bonus. Thanks for watching. Good luck.